deeper. So for today's session, we also have moderator Major Muhammad Ali Shah. He is also an international TEDx speaker who has given the maximum TEDx talks, not just in India, but in the world. He has acted in national award-winning movies such as Haider, Bajrangi Bhaijaan, the Tashkent Files, and many more, with very important roles transforming his getup. He has been a visiting faculty at Subhash Ghai's Film School, Whistling Woods International, and is seen every day on almost all television panels discussing on geopolitics, where his voice is heard internationally. Over to moderator Muhammad Ali Shah, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kasuma. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be speaking on General Ashok Kumar's book launch. And in fact, I had the honor to interview the General a few days back, about a week back or so, on China Betrays Again, on his book. And one of the most enjoyable interviews I've ever had, let me tell you all, because China has betrayed us time and over again, be it they've never honored any of our treaties or any of our pacts, be it the Panchil Pact, be it any pact. In fact, always they've backstabbed us all the time. And now, I don't know how many rounds of almost, God knows how many rounds of I remember when the 18th round of the co-commander talks happened at the Indo-China border. That's the time I was speaking on a television panel, and I said, I can predict one thing, that, this is not going to stop over here. It's going to have many more. And recently, we also saw a video where one officer, one young lieutenant, was speaking to the Chinese army at the border, and he was saying, Bhai se puchena, sir se puchena. And he had an ITBP colleague with him, though he was from the army. This person was from army, and the ITBP colleague was with him. And he said, मैं कल 6 घंटे चला हूं, इनकी गाड़ी खराब हो गई थी, इन गाड़ी को यहाँ से निकालने के लिए. So India has always spoken peace. But on that note, let me now call upon and our keynote speaker, Air Commodore Shivinder Pal Singh, sir. And of course, we will have a panel of other guests. Also, we would have a whole lot of people. We would have Major Amit Bansal, sir, one of our strategic experts, very, very well-read man, who I have associated with since 2005 when we were serving together in the northeast part of India. And we also have Major Analytica, a very well-renowned cyber expert, and who has a solid name, not just in the army, but internationally. We also would be having Dr. Vinay Kumar, who is a distinguished guest speaker as well, specializes in especially the Indo-China affairs. And of course, we will have our MC over here, and she will give the introduction. But before that, let me call upon our keynote speaker, Air Commodore Shivinder Pal Singh, sir. Kusuma, could I please request you to, if you could read out a few words about sir?
I'll now call out Kritika to give a brief bio of SP Singh, sir. Kritika, if you can hear me, over to you.
Yes, sir. Air Commodore SP Singh. VSM is also a strategic analyst and a fellow at Center for Air Power Studies, heading Indo-Pacific Affairs. He has been an associate editor for 2 books that too related to international affairs. So over to you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And General Ashok, sir, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak on the excellent book that you have done. And Shah, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. Sir, I must tell everyone that, having spent almost about 16 years now on China, studying from various forums, having worked in NSCS for 2 years on China, having worked in Strategic Force Command on China, I have come across large number of books written on the subject, large number of opinions, large number of articles. But to say I was looking for the best, I think today I found the best. This is the one-line summary I can tell about the book written by General Sir. The book China Betrays Again by Major Ashok Kumar, sir, is a well-researched account of Sino-Indian relations in the field of geopolitical studies. His vast experience and long career in the Indian Army and years of strategic experience actually contributes to the unmatched knowledge of thorough examination of China's rise and the consequences it has got on the regional and international relations. The book itself is the acknowledgement to the author's extensive knowledge as well as his skills transforming intricate issues into an interesting, approachable analysis that everyone can understand. Most of the times, any book or article which is written on China is a very mundane kind of article, a write-up, which most people don't want to read except those who are involved in it. But the book by you, sir, is a very interesting thing, the way it develops right from the historical perspective, from the days of 1911 till now, and every issue has been dealt very clearly. And this is the aim with which we have written the book. It justifies the ends. With an emphasis on India specifically, the book's core explores the complex issues and frequently contentious border disputes that exist between China and its neighbors. When it comes to explain the strategic ramifications of China's policies, General Ashok is a par excellence in this. It is the thoughtfulness and presenting of the conversation that India needs to strengthen its infrastructure and military capability along the border. I will take few minutes on just bringing out the issues that have been highlighted by sir. It is the India-China have a long history of relations, not of decades, but of centuries. The people on both sides have always been interacting in cultural and economic spheres across the Himalayan gap that exists between the two. Travelers like Faxian, Zhuan Zhang, and Kumar Vijaya from India have played an instrumental role in the cross-fertilization of the ideas as well as the travel of the Buddhism across to China. During Qing dynasty, actually, as we feel, the trade relations of both countries were dominating the world, and that is where the relations were at its best. However, as the time passed, both countries became the victim of imperialism, and that is what the whole problem started. And in 1927, if you go through what the sir has written, is the basically both were the party to the imperialism against imperialism, that a Congress of oppressed nationalities where we were both part of it. However, India's relationship took a very uneven trajectory beyond the time when we came to the 1940s. And that is where the whole problem started. And later on, it continued into the asylum given to Dalai Lama, technology in Tibet, and then the 1962 conflict. All these things, issues kept adding up and came up to various issues that we had. In 1950, Korean War, our stand there. 1950, the evolution Africo-Asian Institute, and the wake of the Taliban Tibetan uprising. Now, these are the issues, are the historical issues which have been the bane of contention for Indo-China. And various issues are like this have been in detail analyzed by General Ashok in his book. And that is where the matter lies, where a large number of issues generally get missed out. And in his book, he has very, very clearly brought out every issue that impacts the today's scenario, what has happened. Obviously, there have been a lot of failures at the levels of both diplomatic and scenarios at both ends. But notwithstanding, the post-1962, the Indo-Pak War of 1965 and 71 were also instrumental, where the tilt of the China towards the Pakistan was very obvious. And China didn't even take a step back in showing that their tilt towards the Pakistan. For multiple reasons, we will not talk about it. Then, important intervention which came in Deng Xiaoping time in 1980, it also got fizzled out very soon. Because of in 87, the movement was declared Arunachal Pradesh a full state. That is where the problem once again surged itself. And then thereafter, we never got the relations back to normal. In 1998, immediately after that, the Pokhran nuclear explosion that we had, tests that added a new dimension to our relations. And soon there are three nations, the nuclear nations in the world, the only three neighbors or are all nuclear nations. And the tensions grew between them is very well known to all of us. The China's continuous stand on Mahmoud Azhar in the UN is also a big thaw in the relations that has never got real. China has continued till recent, where he always used his veto power to not let the Masood Azhar being declared as a global terrorist. These are the kind of issues that we had and never got resolved between the two countries, despite the diplomatic effort. And thereafter, China's upsurge in the military help and conventional military help to Pakistan, whether in terms of aircrafts or equipment or radars or weapons, as also to the nuclear, added to a lot of problems. CPC corridor, Gwadar port development, and later on the tussle in the military standoff at Galwan and Doklam. All these issues are continuing to increase the spoiled relation between the two, if I call it. The neighborhood dilemma is also very important to understand. The book brings out a lot of issues which are there. We must read very carefully as to what has been brought by General Ashok, has put in a lot of effort in explaining these issues. And the neighborhood dilemma is one of the first to deal with. While we call string of pearls by China, there are issues within the relations. And even in the north, where we have the Bhutan, Nepal, on the east, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and on the south, Indian Ocean region, all littoral states, we have a very, very delicate balance to be drawn between the relations. We know the recent case of Maldives, which has happened with us, and the efforts are on to resolve the issue. So this is where one has to understand the threat which we earlier India faced only in the north, west, and some part of the east has now turned itself into the encircling entire India. So we have threat now from all sides. You look at the western border, Pakistan, northern and eastern was the China, and the entire southern peninsula region is now in IUR is under threat by the China's aggression. So this is where the entire country gets encircled. And our threat assessment has to be based not only on earlier as we had only land border threat, it has now increased in complexity and range in the Indian Ocean region. And this is how the entire thing is happening. India joining Quad, I2U2, and other minilaterals and multilateral with Japan, Australia, UK, US separately, and France. All these are helping to deter China from having the hegemony moves in the Indian Ocean region at least. Land border dispute we still have to handle alone. And that's where it makes a difference. India has made a lot of efforts. I must add to the further issues of the thing that while India has made a lot of efforts in terms of becoming self-reliant by Atmanirbhar initiative, as also by initiatives like Sagarmala and Sagar, we are trying to extend our reach to various nations in the littoral state, acquisition of the various military hardware like C-17, C-130, Apache, Chinook, Rafale aircrafts, as well as S-400, Spice 2000, Hammer, all this defensive and offensive capability, catering for both Ladakh region, Arunachal, as well as the Indo-Ocean region, has given us a little respite in holding them back. However, while the New Delhi needs to constantly look over its shoulder for any potential Chinese surprise, there is also an urgent need to adopt a multi-pronged strategy to deal with Beijing, for all statecraft is not black and white. And that is where we have to understand there are shades of gray, and that where we need to exploit. So there is a need to increase our diplomatical, political, multilateral, economical reach to China and engage them in various modes so as to have a peaceful borders. And we have to find a way out. And the book which Sir has written is extensive explanation of what all the issues at all. I think the Ministry of Foreign Affairs would be well educated with this item, the ideas that have been given, and this book must be brought in focus to the government at each level. I must say that all the individuals who are interested in China or they seeking to learn about China, they will be benefited by this. Media outlets, scholars, intellectuals, university college students, and anyone else in the ministerial aspect. All those who are interested in developing the foreign relations and need to have a clear aim and focus how to deal with China, this book actually can form the basis of that. And I must once again congratulate General Ashok for having given us a wonderful description of what all is there historically and given a future roadmap in his book. So thank you so much for writing a great description, and I think we all are benefited by this. Thank you so much once again. A great book, great read for must read. Thank you so much.
USP, thank you very much.
Sir.
Sir, thank you very much for that enlightening talk. It was really very educative and very informative to everyone. And in fact, I would like to once again personally thank everyone who's here with us to have taken out their precious time and to be with us on this happy occasion. I would personally like to call upon Alankrita Sharma ji, Alex Gu, Major Amit Bansal sir. Thank you. You are, of course, you are here with us. And Amit Mathur ji and Major Aprajita Pandey. You are, of course, the panelists over here. And General Ashok Kumar, of course, he's here. And he is the man, the author, and the man behind the entire event, I would say. And then we have... I'm so sorry. I will call upon the name which is there reflecting on the screen. Blink Scholar and Dana Scully, and then this SAMG Cub. I would call upon Fox Muddler, Gurjot Kaurji, Kritika Rajput, and Kusuma. And the Kritika Rajput only was moderating, in fact, was comparing, in fact. Then Moti Hariji, Mridul Sharma, Pradeep Gupta, Professor Pranesh Kumar, Professor Henry, and of course the Red Lantern Analytica. They have been very, very supportive. And there's Samiksha Garg there's Saptaswa, there's Satinder Pal Singh sir, is very much the Komodo. You just heard him speak just now. Shalini Arya ji, Shubham Singh, Siddharth Ghosh, and the space militarization. Then there's storyline, then there's Sunny Naidu, then there's Surbhi Nautiyal. And I am truly grateful to you, all of you, to have taken our time. And now, without further ado, let me call upon a strategist, an intellectual, a person who is extremely well-read, who's had special, who's operated with the special forces. And in fact, I would call upon the MC to please give the introduction of Major Amit Bansal, though the name needs no introduction at all, sir. But customary, if I may call upon the MC to please give the Amit Bansal.
Good evening to all the participants. Major General Ashok Kumar is the recipient of Presidential Award Vishish Seva Medal and the author of the book which we are discussing today, which I have here. I am going through this book since yesterday, and as said by respected Savinder Pal Singh sir, this book is an absolute must-read. General Ashok Kumar, he is a strategist, administrator, and defense expert with more than 37 years of background. He was an operational planner and executor of military operations in Kargil War and the China Front. And I'll now like to invite Major General Ashok Kumar sir for his address. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Siddharth. At the outset, let me thank entire Red Lantern Analytica team and all the panelists and everybody else who had joined to participate in this book discussion today. There is a strong belief, and in fact that is true also, that once you give your time to somebody, actually you are giving him that part of your life. So thank you everybody for sparing your time for this book discussion. And this book is very close to my heart. This is my first book, and you know, they say that you never forget your first love. So it is something like that. Now, you know, coming to the book per se, I was born in 1963, within a year of conclusion of 1962 war. Though we did not do well in 1962 war, either militarily or, you know, at the policy level and the political level. But despite all that, the Indian masses have taken that military did something in an outstanding manner, despite all the disadvantages they had in terms of their equipping, clothing, and all kind of, you know, support. And it was a national belief that, you know, China had backstabbed us in a big way, despite we educating Panchsheel and the Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai being a buzzword of that time. And if you really read history, India had gone out of the way to support China once it became independent on 1st October 1949, including facilitating it to get a Security Council seat in its own place. So that is the kind of sacrifice India had made for China, but in return it was backstabbed. Anyway, as I was growing, I think the nation had also taken its lessons quite well in 1962, and it had taken that pretty well. It can be inferred only from this fact that Pakistan tried to attack India again in 1965 because he was thinking that India was defeated by China in 1962. It would be a weak nation and they can leverage that to reclaim Jammu and Kashmir. But that time, India responded very, very aggressively, not only in Jammu and Kashmir, but it also opened a front in Punjab state. And the outcome of 1965 is well known to you. Thereafter, the country has really never looked back. As I was a child of 5 years, entering a primary school, it was 1967, and who will not know as to how General Sagat Singh's forces in Nathula and Chola had checkmated Chinese and given them a good beating, though in a limited manner, but that was a rebuttal to what had happened in 1962 in some way. Thereafter, I was growing, the nation was growing, and I joined Indian Army in June 84. And I was just 3 years old in the Indian Army when 1987 Samdurang Chu happened. And even during that year, the way Jan Sundarji mobilized the forces in an unprecedented manner, and we are because of that holding the forwardmost positions in Tawang sector and elsewhere, and China could not progress its intent in Tawang sector much. Thereafter, there was a lot of silence on Chinese part, and we both started focusing on the peace and tranquility, confidence building measures, the trade development. In fact, 1991 forced us to take the economic consideration as prime issue in our national growth because we were on the verge of economic collapse. And then 2017 happened. But in 2017 also, despite this Doklam issue which happened in Bhutan, but because of our security concerns and commitments, we also mobilized our forces and finally did not let Chinese achieve its aim. And finally, because of the political engagements, that issue was managed. It was thereafter seeming as if everybody, is fine and, trade is flourishing, though it was growing in unprecedented manner and more so in favor of China. Actually, in the balance of payment figures, it was disadvantage to India in mathematical terms, but it was flourishing from both sides, maximum money being given to the Chinese side. Nobody could, imagine that once we have a peace and tranquility agreements, the confidence building measures, and despite the issue of border not being settled and line of actual control also seeing some kind of skirmish, petrol clashes, some dhakka-mukki somewhere here and there, largely the situation was pretty peaceful. Nobody had expected that what will happen in April, May 20. And when it happened, it was something which was unbelievable. A country like China, to its best friend, where it was getting maximum advantage, it transgressed at number of locations in Eastern Ladakh, which have not been resolved fully even till date, despite 20 rounds of military level talks between both the sides, political engagements, diplomatic engagement, and so on and so forth. When this happened, I was posted in Headquarters Eastern Command, which is responsible for the largest portion of the Chinese border. Of course, the main brunt was borne by the Northern Command because most of things happen in the Eastern Ladakh. And one did what one could do as part of its official responsibilities. Nothing more is required to be told on that. But in the process of doing that, I did realize that our knowledge about China is really pretty bad, not only amongst the defense forces, paramilitary forces, state police forces, but also in the common youth. And that requires to be energized because unless we develop a whole of a nation approach, we can never reach our rightful place amongst the community of nations. You will all agree that in 1971, we adopted whole of the nation approach. Every individual citizen, intelligence agencies, defense forces, politicians, diplomats, anybody and everybody, put its weight behind the national effort. And we were able to liberate East Pakistan in form of Bangladesh in just 14 days. And the number of prisoners which we captured, more than 93,000, is unparalleled in the world history so far. In that kind of span of time, and we created a country and then came out without any advantage trying to be accrued to us as a nation. So that kind of approach is needed even as of now. So after my superannuation about 2 years back, I started writing on various geopolitical issues. Of course, China was very close to my heart because I had the opportunity of serving on Chinese border directly or indirectly all along, at some stage of my career. And once this thing happened, I tried to see, is it one of the things which has happened in 2020, or there is something more to it? And my deeper research indicated to me that it has become a national character of China to backstab its friends. In fact, you will find this character being manifested not only with India, but with other nations also. You just see the latest case of Sri Lanka, where it was totally dead trapped by China. The Colombo Port City project, Hambantota Port, and everything was taken on 99 years lease. And still, when they were in a bad shape, it did not come to the rescue. As against that, India, behaved as an excellent neighbor and pitched its resources without anything in return. So I have, tried to go down to 1911 onwards in this book, because 1911 is the timeline when it shifted from the dynastic rule to some kind of democratic rule under ROC, which is the current day Taiwan. That party was a group of nationalists which were formed, and it propagated democratic form of government. And finally, the king had to hand over the power to this party. And after, say about 14-15 years, there's this communist party, which is currently in power in form of PRC. They took their, roots in China. And thereafter, the ROC and PRC have been, at times fighting with each other because one was a democratic form of government, the other was the communist form of government, and both had the aspirational leadership at their helm. And more than the well-being of their nationals, they were more concerned about their own projection. But they also came together for few years when Japanese during World War II occupied fairly large areas of China. But finally, again, once that war got over, and again they started fighting each other, that resulted in the long march of Mao, and thereafter, finally it came into the victory of PRC, and they became an independent nation in a communist form of government on 1st October 1949. Now, what is important here to see that India had already become independent on 15th August 1947. And for these 2 years of intervening period between 15th August 47 to 1st October 1949, Tibet was a sovereign state. It had its own constitution, its own flag, its own ambassadors. And therefore, in a real sense, the India-China border is not an India-China border, it is actually India-Tibet border. However, since we had our own problems and we were functioning from the high ethical value system, we did not resolve the border issue in a formal manner, either with Tibet or in the early stages with China. And thereafter, it backstabbed. But once I see the history of this party coming to from 1st October 1949, if you just draw the map of this country on that date, it was not a very big country as it is, seemingly happened today. But thereafter, with a fast pace, it captured Xinjiang, it captured Tibet, it captured the Inner Mongolia, it captured Henan Islands. In any case, the Hong Kong and Macau also came to it as part of the 100 years lease getting over, and number of other islands and areas which it has subsumed itself. And it has not stopped there. In fact, it has thereafter progressed to capture other areas. One is the Taiwan and some islands which are under the Taiwan's territory that it is wanting to integrate initially by persuasion, and now it is very keen to even apply the force for that integration. Even in South China Sea, it is troubling all its neighbors, including in East China Sea, the Japan, the Koreans, the Australians, Philippines, Vietnam, you name a country in Indo-Pacific regions in the South China Sea and around, everybody is being troubled by it because this is the only country in the world where if you find as per the international conventions, the borders are drawn on the land by the delineation, but not in a maritime boundary. But this is the one country which has done the land boundary like draw in the maritime boundary also, whereas it came with the 11 dash lines initially, then it gave certain concession to Vietnam and came down to 9 dash lines, and now once the Nancy Pelosi was visiting Taiwan, that time it came up again with new 10th dash and making it the 10th dash line. The 10th dash has been put on the eastern portion of Taiwan so that it is taken as part of China. So 1949 till Xi Jinping rose to power, and thereafter China's each and every person who has been at the helm of affairs has been expanding, and without any logic and without any trust, without any faith. Then I have also tried to look at, besides its expansion in China, what is the dispute between India and China? Border dispute, I have covered this issue in the western sector to include the area of Ladakh. I have covered it in middle sector to include the Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. I have covered in the eastern command to include Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh, including the issues of line of actual control. As I have gone ahead, I have included some other important aspects. One is its land boundary law. Now, this land boundary law came in force on 1st January 22, though it was approved by their parliament on in October 21. And but it makes a major shift actually in the approach as to how things are going to unfold between us and China in future. All those who critically read the agreement between us and China of the year 2005, there is a clause which says that for all future border negotiations, the interest of the settled population will be factored. We were quite happy with that because China's expressed focus was on Tawang. And since Tawang had a large scale of settled population, not only in Tawang, but even in the northern areas, Kinjimane and beyond to the line of actual control. So that was to our advantage. Of course, all the agreements become advantageous or disadvantages depending on which way the parties signatory to these, honor that. But anyway, but the same clause has been turned 180 degrees around by China on us, wherein it has gone in creation and settlement of more than 600 Xinjiang villages, are the model villages, so to say, close to line of actual control, not only in eastern Ladakh, but all along the border with us. And it has put the some Tibetan people, and along with that, it has brought the Han Chinese population from the mainland. On one hand, it is trying to attain the population inversion, keeping the Tibetans in a minority. But at the same time, by having these settled populations, it is trying to give a signal that now it is not a territorial issue between India and China. It is a sovereignty issue between India and China. And therefore, it is in a way putting a full stop to our future negotiation of the border, and indicating that any negotiation which is going to take place is somewhat going to be around line of actual control. If it gets settled in some way or the other, that is something for future to see. I have also tried to look at when Kargil had happened, I had the opportunity to serve there at Brigade Major of Kargil Infantry Brigade, of course, on the later part of the Kargil war. And finally, the areas which were unheld in the Kargil sector, we had to deploy more than a division there today, which are holding the line of control. Now, similar thing is developing on the line of actual control as well. Today, we have more than 50,000 troops on both sides, and it has been now close to 4 years when the situation is not going to ease out. And therefore, this LOCification of line of actual control is something which is on the anvil, for which we have to be ready. We are doing well to develop the infrastructure, axials, laterals in a big way, but we still have miles to go to compete because the terrain on our side is a little different than what we see on the Chinese side. Of course, one strange thing I noticed, and based on whatever available input is there in open domain, in the process of settling the transgressions, we have accepted the buffer zones. More often than not, these buffer zones are prohibiting us to go to our erstwhile patrolling points and to our area of perceived line of actual control, which I feel as of now is disadvantage India. But maybe the decision makers and the other stakeholders, they are in no better picture and better way of managing, and this may be an interim measure to reach the agreed settlement in future. But as a concept, the buffers on the borders per se are okay, because that facilitate keeping the both the sides border guarding troops little away and facilitating patrolling. But on the line of actual control, this is little regressive, as I have seen that. Of course, I have tried to analyze the India Pacific issues, South China issues, East China issues in detail in this book, and also have tried to look at the Siachen dispute in brief, because Siachen dispute came close to getting resolved in 1992. The Indian requirement was there that both sides should pull away, and Pakistan must ratify our positions as on date on Siachen Glacier, so that both the people can, in future, know where their claim lies. But before it could be done, there have been other efforts to negotiate that and settle that, but finally it could not get concluded. But today, I think, the India has no scope to make any concession on the Siachen issue because of the Karakoram highway passing through, the fair amount of the road infrastructure getting developed, the BRI and CPIC of China going through Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, and Sakshagam Valley already which has been ceded by Pakistan to China in 1963, and now a new alignment of the National Highway 695 coming quite close to the LAC. So I think the current dynamics, the geopolitical dynamics and military dynamics give us no rope to move on Kashmir for any correction, on Siachen for any concession. Of course, since China and Taiwan is emerging as a major flashpoint, and most of the nations of the world are likely to be involved, so that has also been covered in detail. And then there are very many other issues in terms of the development of rocket missile force, and very many issues which are happening in China and what India should do. I will not say I'm a brilliant author, but as a military thinker, or you can say a military man, I have tried to give certain recommendations at the end of each of my articles as to what should be done by our stakeholders to respond to such situation, so that the situation turns to Indian advantage. If you go through the article on China's land boundary law, you will clearly find that what all should be done by us to do that. As of now, largely we have been reactive. He names certain places in Arunachal Pradesh, and we say, how does it make difference? He draws a map including certain portions of us and other, and we say, how does it make difference if he's doing that? If there's no international election, we don't, accept that. Similarly, whenever anybody from Arunachal visits China, he, talks of this Stepple Besa, and we don't reciprocate anybody coming from Tibet or other areas to our areas by this Stepple Besa. Not only that, when our Prime Minister, President, Defense Minister go to Arunachal Pradesh, you take a note, every time a voice is raised by China. But we never do that when Chinese President and other dignitaries visit Tibet, that, it is something which should not be done. That is, our claim area till the Kunlun mountain ranges. So I think we all have to have reasonable amount of knowledge about China. This book is an effort in a language written by a person who has rose to this position from a village background. So you'll find certain grammatical mistakes. You may not find the language very flowery, but you'll find the fair amount of content, the logic behind it as to how we should get empowered to ensure that we as a nation not only grow economically, but we become a global power in times to come. With that, I will conclude what I had to say. Over to Muhammad Ali Shah.
Sir, thank you very much for the enlightening talk. It was really wonderful listening to you, sir. And of course, and and you mentioned about Tawang, and incidentally, I was 3 years old, and my father also was serving in the army. So he was a battery commander that time. He was in the gun area in Kirmu side in Tawang, and I started my schooling from Tanga Valley. I did my nursery from there. And we also saw a video on 9th December last year, which last year, rather, I would say, which when viral, it may not be of Tawang, it might be of Yangtze or somewhere close by. But the very fact is, उसमें हमारी दमखम, हमारी ताकत दिखाई है. How our soldiers are thrashing the Chinese soldiers, their border guards with dandas. With Air Commodore Saab will agree with me. कहते पंजाबी में गाली दे दे के उनको भगा के मारा, भगा खदेड़ के फेंका. Anyhow, on that note, let me bring forward and let me request the MC to please introduce a name which needs no introduction again. I am saying a very, very dear old friend of mine, Major Amit Bansal, sir.
Yes, sir. Major Amit Bansal is a defense strategist who has keen interest in international affairs, geopolitics, global strategy, and counterterrorism. He has over 25 years of experience of leadership and managing large teams in both businesses as well as government sectors. He's a top performer, a hand-picked officer for special operations with the elite special forces of the army. Over to you, Major Bansal.
Thank you, Kritika. As we talk about General Ashok's book, I remember my association with him 2.5 decades back. As a youngster, as a young lieutenant, I was commissioned into the same unit. And since then, the association has been long. Proud to be part of the same unit and proud to be having served with him for about 2.5 decades, sir. And knowing him very closely, I can say for sure that his in-depth knowledge, the kind of knowledge he has, is phenomenal. Phenomenal. And like for us, whenever we used to go to him for any kind of query, he used to come back with so much of knowledge that it is no words to explain. He has been into the various positions, and a big chunk of his service has been into the eastern borders. And as far as the understanding of China is concerned, I can say he is one of the authorities who can talk about China, who can really give you an in-depth knowledge about China. When we talk about this book, it's got about 50 different chapters or articles, you can say. Each of them is mentioning about the incidents of China, what we learn from it, and what should we do to mitigate such kind of things in the future. So it is every article of this book is a small book in itself. It's the complete book, gives you an in-depth knowledge about one particular chapter. So that kind of comprehensive the book is, and it is a must read for everyone. It covers the events right from 1911, when China evolved from a monarchy. So I often call it that in 1911, when Xinhai Revolution took place, China developed from monarchy to anarchy. So they became a communist country slowly, and today the kind of democracy they have is a communist country. So you really can't have a true democracy over there. As we say that it is a national character of China to backstab everybody. And I can put it on the records. You can check for this and you'll realize that there is no neighbor of China with whom it does not have any border dispute. With India, they fought a war in 1962. With Russia also, with whom they share the same communist ideology, they fought a battle, a proper war on the issue of Janbo Islands. They also have different disputes in the areas of Argon and Amur River. With Mongolia, they have a border dispute. The North Korea, which boasts of having only one friend, which is China. With North Korea also, they have border dispute in terms of this Yalu and Tumen rivers. They have disputes with Kazakhstan, they have disputes with Kyrgyzstan, they have border dispute with Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, Laos, Vietnam, name any country. So they have a tradition, they have a national character that they always want to keep the things open, They always want to keep the disputes open so that they can backstab the neighbors at any given point of time. In case of India also, you take the events right from the independence of China, 1949 onwards. China has surprised us every time, and China has backstabbed us every time. You see the failure of Panchsheel, you see 1962 war, you see Nathula skirmishes, and all sort of events which have taken place right up to Dokalam and Galwan Valley. It has always backstabbed us. See the Chinese character in South China Sea. Initially came up with 11-dash line, 9-dash line, now again 10-dash line. You should not be surprised that if tomorrow China starts claiming area up to Australia also. So that is the character. It does not recognize India's borders in the eastern Ladakh. It does not even recognize the McMahon line. It does not even recognize other borders. There have been border disputes in the other parts of the country also. But when we talk about today, the dispute between India and China is not only related to the border. It is related to a comprehensive, you can say, the package of the territorial disputes. We talk about the economic disputes. We talk about the quest to become a superpower in the Asia. You talk about a quest to become an economic power. And whatever China does, it doesn't affect, even if it is doing something in South China Sea against Taiwan, it is going to directly affect us in today's scenario. Whatever it is doing in the Indian Ocean in terms of the string of pearls, it is affecting us already directly. It is already establishing military bases all over. They've got in Djibouti, they've got all those places. It is affecting us directly. The way it is developing its proximity with Pakistan closely. See, if you see the relations right now, right from the 50s, when China started supporting Pakistan, and today, the Chinese culture is completely imbibed into the Pakistani political system or Pakistani establishment. We call it the military and establishment. So the kind of effect China has got, the kind of control China has got in the Pakistani system is tremendous now. And once again, as I said, the Chinese character is backstabbing. It has always used its different pawns, sometimes another pawn, sometimes other pawn. This time Pakistan could be another pawn. They've always been using different kind of juggle, but ultimately, so if you want to understand what kind of strategy China is growing and what kind of, you can say, ambitions China is carrying, each and every article of this book is a must read. Every article gives you so much of in-depth knowledge. And if you put all of them on a platter, it will give you a fair idea of how Chinese strategy is working out with respect to India and with respect to its future goals or future ambitions of China. So with this, I would like to congratulate General Ashok on this book. It has been a phenomenal book. It has been a wonderful book and a must read for all if you want to understand about the Chinese culture and Chinese character in totality.
Thank you, Amit, for your kind words. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, sir. Always been pleasure with you, sir.
And I just want to make another statement that majority of our panelists today are the people of a young generation, because on their shoulder lies the destiny of our nation. So thank you very much, and to all of you really.
And sir, thank you very much for also considering us young. We are so happy. You made a day. Very kind of you, sir. So, and also, that was a very, very brilliant talk by Major Amit Bansal. In fact, I always look forward to hearing him and reading him, his thoughts and views and such things. We also have a very, very illustrious officer with us. I will not say, like just yesterday was 26 January, the theme was Nari Shakti. I will not say a lady officer because फौज में हम lady officer, gentleman officer नहीं देखते, हम officer होता है, officer देखते हैं. So on that note, I would request the MC to please read out a bit in a small introduction of Major Aparajita Pandey. And ma'am, could I welcome you to give a talk after the MC's introduction, please? Thank you.
Major Aparajita Pandey is a military officer, and she is also a profession in business and management sector. She is a human resource and a cyber domain expert. And I'd like to hand over the mic to you.
I think she has to unmute.
You're on mute, ma'am. Ji.
I'm sorry. Jain sir, I'm Major Aprajita Pandey, recently retired from the Corps of Signals of Indian Army. And it has been my privilege to have served with General Ashok, Vishisht Seva Medal in Eastern Command, who has immense experience of serving and leading the northern and the eastern sectors of our country, the regions which we share our boundaries with China. This book, I've gone through the book, and this book will help in bringing forth the Chinese pattern of action, and will definitely help the people of India, be it the future governments or the present governments, the future policy makers, in better understanding the scenario, getting the right mindset, and making future policies, and be aptly prepared for dealing with any incidents in future of national importance and against the national security. As very explicitly brought out in this book, China's policy appears to be only territorial expansion, be it Tibet, Mongolia, and various other countries where it shares its borders with. One thing I would like to tell, even if the present generation has forgotten about the Panchsheel betrayal, while I was serving in the Ladakh region from 2015 to 17, the Chinese face-off at Doklam was not at all. It was not at all called for. It happened without any provocation. One more thing, which like I have myself seen, the various roads which are being built up along the line of control, be it Karakoram Highway or other roads. It easily gives away the Chinese plans of future territorial expansion in India. I've seen the construction being done by the Chinese in the Pakistani territories along the line of control, and with their Chinese soldiers stationed at Pakistani posts. So this thing actually, I'm very happy that General Ashok is making us aware about the present scenario. The brutal attacks, the brutal killings of the men recently, of the men of the Bihar regiment with their commanding officer. The commanding officer, he was there. He had, when a commanding officer, the men in Indian Army lead from the front. When he had gone to that situation, to that place, of course, we were not thinking that our commanding officer will be killed by them. He had gone for negotiation. So we have to see the pattern with which they have always been behaving. They have always been overlooking the international and bi-mutual agreements. And if the water still feels tranquil right now, it doesn't mean that nothing is going to happen in future. General Ashok has very rightly brought out the way ahead, how to deal with the situation. He has immense knowledge. And sir, I would like to thank you. In the end, I would also want to thank you. Thank you for still continuing to serve the country through these efforts. I'm an avid follower of your podcast, of the books, the knowledge which you sir have, and sir, these efforts are definitely going to help in nation building. And I would request all of you to go through the book, and please give as much as promotion to the book as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Aprajita, for your kind words. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. It was wonderful hearing you. And of course, as you rightly said, sir is the authority. And if you ask me, yes, the kind of knowledge and the kind of professional prowess and the kind of experience he's had, particularly, I would say, at the Indo-Tibet border, which he rightly mentioned that it's the Indo-China border, it's actually Indo-Tibet border. We will come to that as well. We will once again welcome sir later on. But after we have heard a distinguished academician, Dr. Vinay Kumar, if he's there with us, sir. And we would like to hear your views as well. And thereafter, we will come back to the author, to General Kumar on this.
Yeah.
Yes, doctor.
Can you hear my voice, sir?
Yes, doctor. Stand
Yes,
by.
sir. I'll give a brief
Doctor,
introduction of
the MC to give a few lines about you, please, before that.
Dr. Vinay Kumar is an academician and researcher. He's working as an assistant professor of political science in Maharashtra National Law University, Aurangabad. He has received Pratibha Award from the government of Andhra Pradesh. His areas of interest are India's relation with neighboring countries, energy security, maritime issues, and terrorism. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Aparajita, for introducing me. Thank you very much. I think I'm the odd man out here, out of the panel, because everybody has the practical experience of looking at the disputes with our neighbor, that is China. And after, elaborative discussion about the Chinese propaganda and the Chinese strategy to make sure that it becomes a regional hegemony first, and then the world major power of the world. After elaborate discussion by all the major generals and the commanding officers in the armed forces, it is like I'm dancing before a Hanuman. Like jumping in front of Hanuman. It is like nowhere comparison. But anyhow, I would like to put forth my ideas about the Chinese strategy. As rightly pointed out in General Sabuk, that there's a long-standing struggle or fight between the neighboring countries of China. China, in fact, has the boundaries with 14 countries. And in fact, all the 14 countries have the problem with the Chinese territorial expansion, number one. Number two, it has nearly 14,500 kilometers of maritime boundary. And without an exemption to the maritime boundary, it has the maritime disputes with almost all the countries from, Philippines, Myanmar, and Cambodia, and other countries. All the countries, especially in the Pacific, with Japan, with Japan, with South Korea, everywhere, wherever it has a maritime boundary, it has the disputes with the countries. Now, it clearly emphasizes that China has a strategy of expanding its territorial integrity with a proof of saying that it has a historical dominance in the world. So now it has to gain again this dominance. So that's the reason why I want to expand the territories. But there is a lack of proof to substantiate its arguments. Now, China not only trying to backstab India from 1947. In fact, when India got its independence in 1947, Sir General has rightly pointed out that from 1947 to today, every time the Indian government has extended the hand of cooperation towards China. But every time from 1954, when Chow En-lai was visiting India, we had made a Panchshil agreement. And by 1962, there was a war. And the war was waged against us. In fact, our armed forces had fought this war with a great bravery and defended our territories. But here, I would like to emphasize that the kind of behavior and the territorial expansion that it has aimed. Immediately after 1962, when there was a war with Pakistan, China was cooperating with Pakistan. And in 1960s, it has laid the road through the Pakistani occupied Kashmir. And this is in fact, reflects the idea of expansion of China. And when the Arunachal coming to the eastern border of the India, when Arunachal Pradesh was, democratically made to be a part of India, it has raised objections, and in Sikkim also it has raised objections, where India has been democratically going ahead to resolve the issues and cooperate with China. It was always showing an aggressive attitude towards India and also its neighbors. You take the case of the 2020 incidents, the Doklam and the Doklam issue. There also it has, bit aggressive against India. Now, what exactly it wants to have in its foreign policy and what are its aim in the near future was rightly pointed out in this book by General. And I have no iota of doubt that this book has covered a comprehensive and detailed explanation of the Chinese foreign policy and the defense policy towards India, and also what would be the implications of the Chinese foreign policy towards India in the near future, and how to counter these territorial ambitions of China. It has been rightly pointed out that it is evident that China is trying to become one of the major power in the world today. Now, it is pointed out in a book written by our external affairs minister Jaishankar ji, that it is clearly evident that now China is going to emerge as one of the major power in the world. Now, how we frame our policies towards China and how we cooperate with China and how we get our national interest to be furthered in a global stage, that is how we need to have a clear idea about how we progress or how we have the strategy to counter this China. Is the solution for this can be found in general book. So with these few words, I would like to thank Major General Ashok sir for putting this book and for putting his words in a very lucid manner that even a layman can understand the implications of the Chinese rise and how India has to counter it. Thank you very much, sir, for enlightening the younger generations like us about the practicalities and the problems that India might face in the near future.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Sir, you were saying something, sir?
No, I was just thanking you.
Sir, thank you, sir. Sir, and the slot given to me to speak, I would rather, there were some some people who are watching us over here, they sent me some messages, so they wanted some doubts to be cleared. So rather, I would put it to the authority itself, sir. Something very interesting which you mentioned that, it's the Indo-China border, it's actually Indo-Tibet border. So someone who's from non-Fauji from the webinar of my friend who's here had messaged me, why is it known as, why Indo-China border as Indo-Tibet border? So would you like to take that on, sir?
I think I'm not the right person to decide why it is being told as India-China border. But definitely I'll be happy, and I strongly believe that it is in our national interest, and it is correct also that we must call it India-Tibet border in all our dispensation. In fact, if you remember, in our initial talk, when I talked about certain Chinese actions of renaming places in Arunachal Pradesh, objecting our hierarchical appointments visiting Arunachal Pradesh, offer up staple visa to the residents of Arunachal Pradesh because it claims it as part of external Tibet. But we are not reciprocating in that manner. Maybe the people at the apex level understand the implications better, because currently there is a peculiar situation. One of you highlighted I think it was Air Commodore SP saying that we are all three nuclear nation states. And there is a, a special feature of that India has declared no first use policy. Same has been declared by China also. Now just see the force comparison between India and Pakistan. Now we have Pakistan as a nuclear state, but it doesn't have a policy of no first use. We have said that we are no first use. So therefore, our conventional age of defense forces can be checkmated by the nuclear threat by Pakistan. Now you come to comparison, us and China both have said that, no first use. Naturally, the advantage goes to the country which has the superior military forces and which in today's time is China. Of course, we have a stronger, defense forces. We can address our national concerns, but I think we are not still in a position. We are on our way to achieve a kind of, position where we can really call the shots. So I think the decision makers would be deliberating on multiple issues which we are not aware, the inputs, the complexities, the implications. But I will feel happy and prefer to call this as a India-Tibet border and not India-China border.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And also one more comment came in, and about this I will take to the Air Commodore Saab, sir. So as we know, the altitude for our civilian friends who are watching us, the altitude of the Indo-Tibet border, as the general has explained, is such that when the Chinese aircrafts take off, they take off with only half payload of fuel. Their entire fuel tank does not really fill in with the full payload. So as a result, obviously, the sortie remains half. So it's a disadvantage for China. So how would we take advantage of that, sir? That's the question for the Air Commodore, sir.
Okay. Anil, this is a very nice question and genuine question which a lot of people ask. See, all the airfields China which has got opposite our Leh Ladakh area, okay, they are very high altitude and they are almost even with the extended runway length, they are not able to take off with the load that they would like to take off for the work. Now, if the aircraft takes off with lesser load because of the fuel constraint and such reasons, it will require air-to-air refueling to go for a longer distance and then take more load, which facility is also not available because the amount of air defense aircraft in that area to give the cover on radar is also not sufficient. Whereas against such limited five airfields, if I say, we have close to 16 airfields on Punjab, Haryana, and the J&K region, from which we can launch large number of aircrafts with full load. So there is a huge disparity in terms of the number as well as the types of weapon and the reach. In all three things, we are much ahead of them. So we'll have a huge advantage. So is the advantage for our helicopter. Like you see, Apache and Chinook, they are now in position in the Ladakh area. And we have a huge advantage of moving the troops as well as the material. So in that area, we have a great advantage. However, this advantage gets nullified to a large extent when we come to Arunachal area. Arunachal area, both are almost parallel. The airfields are almost equal, as well as in that they have much more airfields to produce as far as the helicopters are concerned. Fighters, yes, still they have things, but they have the X-6 bomber, which are long distance bomber, they can come. So the disparity in the Ladakh area is in our favor, and in Arunachal area, we are almost matched. So overall, if you see any time air warfare in this region, we have an edge over it. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So one question for Major Amit Bansal, sir. Sir, since you have vast experience in the Northeast and, you have served in Manipur as well, and, the border of the Indo-Myanmar border, in fact, it's not manned at all. I mean, it's not a porous border. I would call it a very, there's no border at all. And as they say, as Robert Frost also wrote a poem called "The Good Fences Make Good Neighbors." But I will move on to the line of actual control, because there's line of control in Pakistan. The line of actual control, there's no line, it's only a perception. The entire 3,488 kilometer stretch is only a perception. So what are the challenges? Why cannot the Indo-Tibet border that the line of actual control be manned, or why cannot, because there's no agreement, of course, with China, be it the Shimla Pact, be it the Panchil Pact. But why? What is the challenge? Why cannot it be fenced, sir?
So I'll tell you the few regions. The first and foremost reason is when British, they draw the McMahon line, or for that sake they even draw the Radcliffe line. So they just took the watershed into consideration. There was no opposition. China was not even independent. So they just draw a line along with the watershed and created a border. A lot of things have to be taken care of when you talk about drawing border between the countries. It has to be terrain. It has to be areas under control. It has to be the past cheatings. Coming up to the border of LAC, you can say, or maybe the border in the eastern Ladakh. Now, problem is the ratification of the border. Where should we put the fence? LAC is not clearly defined. The border which India claims, China does not accept that. That border which China claims, India does not accept that. So there's no line on which you can draw the parallels. Moreover, there's no ratification of the treaty. You have to keep some treaty as a thumb rule, or maybe as the reference treaty. So all the treaties which India had in the past, they were with the Tibet. They were not with China. China has never ratified them. China does not want to obey them also. China say, okay, we'll not consider these treaties, will not consider these border agreement, will not consider these surveys done by various officers. So when there is nobody to accept the border, guarding the border becomes extremely impossible. The third and foremost reason is the terrain. See, the terrain is totally hostile. It is just not possible. Even if we draw the borders, even if we create a borderline, even if we ratify both the countries, ratify the border, it is near impossible to create a fencing on that terrain. Just not possible. So there are various reasons to that. So and ultimately, the border dispute is not a military dispute. It is a political dispute. It has to be resolved and dissolved by the political will only. Remember, 1962 war, I never call it as a defeat. 1962 war was a political defeat and a military win. Our military fought very bravely. They defied all the odds, and they fought in such a terrain where it was not even possible to fight. But it was a political defeat because political will was not there. Similarly, again, the resolution of the border dispute it lies in the political hands, not in the military side. Thank you.
Right, sir. Very well answered by you, sir. Very crystal clear and crisp. My question to Major Aprajita Pandey is, ma'am, we all know that China is very high tech in technology. In fact, to the extent that in winters, their soldiers are chocolate cream soldiers. Our soldiers are rugged, rough and tough. So they put robotic army, they put artificial intelligence. Those are the people, those are the technology mans the borders rather. And they've also done a bit of, in a way, invisible invasion on various other countries. Like, for example, technologically, if you order something from a big basket, it's got Chinese takes. You order a Ola, Uber, it's got Chinese takes. You order from Flipkart, it's got Chinese takes. You go on Make My Trip, it's got Chinese takes. You go on Oyo rooms, you got Chinese takes. So basically, there's no escape to it. So what is the way out, ma'am? Do you think there could be a way out from this technologically? If you are there, ma'am? Ma'am is, I think
Aprajita
not there.
is not near. Yeah.
Okay. So could I request General Ashok Kumar, sir? Sir, do you think you would want to take on this question?
Yes, definitely. In fact, China has invested substantial amount of national effort in the technological domain. In fact, so much so that there are certain areas where it has surpassed even United States of America. Creation of hypersonic, rockets, missiles, anti-satellite weapons, the exploration of space, creation of its own aircraft, even what will be the, shortcomings. And it has also focused in the cyber warfare and information warfare in a big way. And in this process, it is not only targeting the military infrastructure and military resources in India, it is also targeting the various other national infrastructure, the power grids, whatever has happened in AIMS, New Delhi, about the cyber attack, And the sometime back to the social media, where in the Northeast people from Bangalore were forced to migrate back to their homes and number of things. And this it does in a coordinated manner. And the best part of cyber warfare is that one doesn't need to be stationed physically in that particular country to undertake such operations. So the Chinese students, nationals, hackers all over the world, they have a particular aim of undertaking the cyber warfare against India and all other countries, whatever China thinks appropriate. In fact, this it goes to the credit of the previous US President, Mr. Trump, wherein he identified, this kind of activity by China and came strongly in opposition to China. And that was the point when the USA and China relationship started going down. And that has been carried forward by Mr. Biden also. So it is targeting India, USA, all Western allies, and anybody and everybody, foes, friends, and everybody. And I think this is an area we are already working ahead. We have generated substantial capacities, but it is also true that we have still to make a large move ahead in this particular field.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. So could I also request Major Amit Bansal, sir? I mean, you have some very, very good inputs on the same questions on the technology and China. Could you throw some light on this as well, sir? Please.
When we talk about the capacity which China has built and what they are now, so capacity building does not happen over 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. It happens over a period of time with a strategic motive. So when China started working on this capacity building, it started working in 1979, over 45 years back. And they have been developing this capacity step by step for the last 45 years. When we come to India, so when we started working on this, see, 90s, we were struggling to cope up with our own economy. There was no a mandate for India to develop this. So if I counted maybe another last 2 decades or so, we have started leaping into this field. And despite of working with a clear-cut motive for about 2 decades, we have moved significantly. The progress which China has made in 45 years, we have made more than half of its progress in just 20 years. So the kind of the pace is quite fast, and but still we are lagging behind China in many aspects. So China has got a political stability. We cannot boast of a political stability because we are not kind of a pseudo diplomacy the kind of the China has. So there are various factors to it. But yes, indeed, maybe if we see China and India down the line 20 years, we should be having an edge over them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was very, very enlightening. And thank you very much for all our guests and all our panelists. And of course, General Ashok Kumar, sir, for actually coming forward with this book. And I would urge everyone to get a copy of this book. We can get it signed from the General. We can post it to him. And I'm sure General will not refuse a signature on it. Please spread the word about it and do see the General's interviews on YouTube, especially on China Betrays Again. And I would like to hand over to General Ashok Kumar, sir, if you would like to give any concluding remarks, closing comments, sir.
General sir, with your permission, may I just take 30 seconds?
Definitely, please go ahead.
Sir, I just want to, because before the youngster go away with the impression that is nuclear first strike and second strike is withholding all of us, I just want to highlight that the Pakistan's, that the first choose policy which they proposed was put to test when we carried out the Balakot strike. I'll just rest my case at that. Large amount of things to be discussed on it, why and how it didn't happen. It is just that the first choose has been propagated by the Pakistan to create a kind of deterrence, which we call the bluff in some extent during Balakot strike. Rest all, NFU is still the best form of the deterrence. Having spent 2 years, 2 tenures in SFC, I can just say that. Just the addition, sir. Thank you so much.
No, I thank you. I think what you said there is definitely a merit. But if you look at the Kargil, this was one of the ploys which worked in their favor. Of
Yes.
course, the ground surgical strike post Uri and what happened in Balakot
Yes.
did prove that there is a definitely a scope for such actions,
That's-
but it necessarily not mean that such kind of actions can be repeated with
No,
impunity.
I
But
agree. I agree.
point well taken. And as Muhammad Ali Shah has told, I will just try to say a final statement because it has been adequate time, and the attention span remains limited for everybody. See, the knowing China by itself is not adequate. Now, China today has affected all our neighbors. Pakistan, which has become a vassal state of China. Nepal, the huge inroads, made already in Nepal. Bhutan, it is in the verge of, border settlement and establishment of diplomatic relationship, opening the new, areas of confrontation like Sangteng Sanctuary, which is close to our Tawang area. The Bangladesh is well known. How Myanmar thing is being handled by is what has happened latest in Maldives. So to know the entire dynamics of China, I think activities in these countries are also required to be known. So wait for my second book, which is coming in mid-February, on Indian churnings on the global stage, which handles India's relationship with all its neighbors, with USA, with Russia-Ukraine war, the need of indigenization of defense forces. Today, the major concern, the MRO need, the healthcare need, the national challenges of education and policy simplifications. It is a very good bouquet of multiple issues. I think once that is read, it will work as a complementary reading to this book. With that note, I think I leave it to the people now because they must read it and get to know certain things out of the book rather than me reiterating anything and everything. Over to you, Muhammad Ali Shah.
So thank you very much, and would like to conclude and I wish everyone a very nice evening and happy reading on China Betrays Again. The book is available. Sir will tell us where all the book is available, and it would be, sir, you can tell us where the book is available and how they can lay their hands on the book, and do spread the word.
So
Sir.
book is available on Amazon at its MRP at the moment. For a week's time, it was on 8% discount, but today the discount is not there. It is at the cost of 1295 on Amazon. It is also available on the Sabre And Quill publishers website. They are still giving some kind of discount on that book. And bookmart distributors in Delhi, they are distributing, and for the military libraries and this thing, they are giving a deep discount of 27%. And of course, if you want an author signed copy, you can email to me. That will be delivered. There will be no discount on the cost of the book, but it will be free of cost as per the postage is concerned. So wish you all happy reading, and hope it is able to fulfill the aim for which it has been written.
Sir, thank you so much, sir. It's been such an honor, and I would like to conclude and take care, everyone. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. And I'll now like to invite Kritika for delivering the formal vote of thanks. Kritika, if you can hear me, over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, everyone, for engaging in this insightful discussion on the book China Betrays Again today. Our thoughtful contribution made this session truly enriching. I want to express gratitude to our participants and a very special thank you to Major General Ashok Kumar, sir, for creating this thought-provoking piece that sparked the engaging dialogue today. As we reflect on our discussion and we log off, I encourage each of you to consider adding China Betrays Again to your personal library if you haven't already. Books like this one is a real treasure, offering us the opportunity to gain valuable knowledge and broaden our perspective and spark meaningful conversations. Let's continue the exploration of this book individually, and perhaps we can reconvene for a future discussion. Happy reading, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Kritika. And with these words and with the permission of our respected panelists, we'll now like to close this session. Just showing the book to all our participants. I have the copy and I request all our participants to keep reading and keep spreading the word. Thank you so much.